A billionaire businessman returns to his hometown after 8 years and discovers a shocking truth that his ex-girlfriend has been hiding. A truth that will shatter everything he thought he knew about his past. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us which city you're watching from. And hey, if you're enjoying this story, smash that like button and subscribe to our channel so you never miss an emotional story like this one. Hit that bell icon too. Now, let's dive into the story. The unexpected return. The silver Mercedes came to a stop in front of the weathered wooden gate. Alexander Kane stepped out, his designer shoes crunching against the gravel. In his hand, he held a creased envelope, anonymous, mysterious, with just 5 words written inside. "Come back, she needs you." Those words had haunted him for 3 days straight, enough to make him cancel important meetings in Chicago, enough to make him drive 6 hours into Riverside Valley, the small town he'd sworn never to return to. Alexander stood there, taking in the sight before him, the old community center, the same coffee shop on the corner, the park where he used to spend his evenings. Nothing had changed. Everything felt frozen in time. But he wasn't here for nostalgia. He was here for her. Sofia Martinez. The name alone made his chest tighten. The woman he'd loved, the woman he'd abandoned, the woman who probably hated him more than anyone in the world. Alexander walked down Main Street and heads turned. Whispers followed him. People recognized him. The boy who left town to chase his dreams. The boy who became a millionaire. The boy who forgot where he came from. Is that Alex Kane? Can't be. What would he be doing back here? Heard he's some big shot in Chicago now. Alexander ignored them all. His feet carried him toward the edge of town, toward the small art studio Sofia used to dream about opening. And there it was. Martinez Art Studio, painted in faded letters above a wooden door. She'd done it. She'd achieved her dream. Alexander's heart swelled with pride and guilt at the same time. Pride because she'd succeeded. Guilt because he wasn't there to see it happen. He pushed open the door. A bell chimed softly. The studio was filled with paintings. Beautiful, vibrant, emotional. Landscapes, portraits, abstract pieces that seemed to capture feelings he couldn't put into words. "We're closed," a voice called from the back room. Alexander froze. That voice. Even after 8 years, he'd recognize it anywhere. "I said we're closed?" Sofia stepped out from behind a canvas and stopped dead in her tracks. Time stood still. She looked different. Her dark hair was shorter now, tied back in a messy bun. Paint stains covered her denim overalls. But her eyes, those fierce brown eyes, they were exactly the same. "Sofia," Alexander breathed. She stared at him like she was seeing a ghost. Then her expression hardened. "Get out." "Sofia, please." "I said get out, Alexander." Her voice was ice cold. "You're not welcome here. I just want to talk." "Talk?" She let out a bitter laugh. "Now you want to talk? 8 years too late for that." Alexander took a step forward. "I know I hurt you. I know I don't deserve—" "You don't deserve anything from me," Sofia cut him off. "You left. You chose your career over everything else. Over me. Over us. Over—" She stopped abruptly, her jaw clenching. "Over what?" Alexander pressed. Sofia turned away, wiping her hands on a rag. "Nothing. It doesn't matter anymore." "It matters to me." "Well, it shouldn't." She faced him again, eyes blazing. "Go back to Chicago, Alexander. Go back to your fancy life and leave me alone." "I can't." "Why not?" "Because I got a letter. Someone told me to come back. Said you needed help." Sofia's face went pale. "Who sent you a letter?" "I don't know. It was anonymous." She crossed her arms defensively. "Well, whoever sent it was wrong. I don't need anything from you." Alexander looked around the studio, at the beautiful art, at the worn furniture, at the leak stains on the ceiling. "Sofia, if you're in trouble—" "I'm fine," she snapped. "Business is good. Life is good. I don't need a billionaire coming here trying to play hero." "That's not why I'm here." "Then why are you here?" The question hung in the air between them. Alexander opened his mouth and closed it, because honestly, he didn't know. Was it guilt, curiosity, or something deeper? Something he'd been running from for 8 years? Before he could answer, a small voice came from the back room. "Mommy, I finished my homework. Can I paint now?" Alexander's blood ran cold. Sophia's eyes went wide with panic. A little boy appeared in the doorway, maybe 7 years old, with dark curly hair and bright, intelligent eyes. Eyes that looked exactly like Alexander's. The boy stopped when he saw the stranger. "Oh, sorry, I didn't know someone was here." Alexander couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't move. The child looked at him curiously, tilting his head. "Are you a customer?" Alexander's voice caught in his throat. "Daniel, go back to your room," Sophia said quickly, her voice shaking. "But Mom, now Daniel, please." The boy looked confused but obeyed, disappearing back into the room. Silence crashed down like thunder. Alexander stared at Sophia, his mind racing, heart pounding. "How old is he?" His voice was barely a whisper. Sophia said nothing. "Sophia, how old is he?" She met his eyes and he saw everything there. Pain, anger, fear, and something else. Love. Fierce, protective, maternal love. "7," she whispered. "He just turned 7. Alexander did the math. 8 years since he left. 9 months of pregnancy. His legs almost gave out. "Is he—" He couldn't finish the sentence. Sophia's silence was answer enough. "Why didn't you tell me?" Alexander's voice broke. "Why didn't you tell me I had a son?" Tears streamed down Sophia's face. "I tried. I called you 100 times. I sent letters. I even flew to Chicago and went to your office. But your assistant turned me away. She said you gave strict orders not to be contacted by anyone from your past." Alexander felt like he'd been punched in the gut. "That was during the merger. I told my team to screen all calls because—" He stopped, realizing how pathetic it sounded. "I didn't know." "It doesn't matter," Sophia wiped her tears angrily. "You made your choice. You chose success over everything else. If I had known—" "What? You would have come running back? You would have given up your dreams?" She shook her head. "I didn't want you to resent me, to resent him. I would never—" "You already did, Alexander. You resented this town. You resented the life we had here. That's why you left." Her words cut deep because they were partially true. Alexander had been desperate to escape Riverside Valley, to prove himself, to build something bigger. And in his desperation, he'd left behind the one person who truly mattered. "I want to meet him," Alexander said, "properly. I want to know my son." Sophia's face hardened. "No." "Sophia, he doesn't know you exist, Alexander. As far as he's concerned, his father left before he was born. I'm not going to confuse him now. He deserves to know the truth. He deserves a father who won't disappear the moment things get difficult." Sophia's voice was firm. "Can you promise me that? Can you promise you won't get bored of small-town life and run back to Chicago?" Alexander wanted to say yes. He wanted to promise everything would be different. But the truth was, he didn't know if he could keep that promise. And Sophia saw the hesitation in his eyes. "That's what I thought," she said quietly. "Now please leave, and don't come back." "Sophia, leave Alexander, before I call the police." He stood there for a moment, memorizing every detail of her face, trying to find words that didn't exist. Finally, he turned and walked toward the door. But before stepping out, he looked back one more time. "I'm staying at the Riverside Inn, room 12. If you change your mind, if you need anything, I'll be there." Sophia said nothing. Alexander left, the bell chiming softly behind him. As he walked back to his car, his mind was a hurricane of emotions. He had a son, a 7-year-old boy he'd never met. A child who grew up without a father because Alexander was too focused on building an empire. He sat in his car, hands gripping the steering wheel, And for the first time in years, Alexander Kane, the man who closed million-dollar deals without breaking a sweat, broke down and cried. Secrets and shadows. Alexander didn't sleep that night. He lay in the small inn room, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the little boy with curly hair and curious eyes. Daniel, his son. The words still felt surreal. By morning, Alexander had made a decision. If Sophia wouldn't let him into Daniel's life, he'd have to prove himself first. Show her he'd changed. Show her he wasn't the same selfish boy who left 8 years ago. He got up, showered, and headed into town. His first stop was the local diner, the same place he used to have breakfast with Sophia every Sunday morning. "Well, I'll be damned," the owner, Mrs. Chen, said when she saw him. "Alexander Kane, back from the dead." "Good morning, Mrs. Chen." She eyed him suspiciously. "What brings you back to our little town? Run out of fancy restaurants in Chicago?" "Just visiting," Alexander said with a smile. "Mm-hmm." She didn't look convinced. "The usual? You remember?" "Kid, I've been serving you pancakes since you were 10 years old. Of course I remember." While he waited for his food, Alexander listened to the conversations around him. Small-town gossip. Who was dating whom? Whose crops failed? Who won the county fair? But one conversation caught his attention. "Did you hear about Sophia's studio?" someone whispered. "What about it?" "She's behind on rent, has been for months. The landlord's threatening to evict her." Alexander's fork froze halfway to his mouth. "That's awful. She works so hard." "I know, but art doesn't pay the bills, does it? Especially not in a town this small." Alexander's mind raced. Is that why someone sent him the letter? Because Sophia needed help? After breakfast, Alexander walked to the town records office. He had to know more. The clerk, an elderly man named Mr. Peterson, looked up from his desk. "Can I help you, son? I need information about the Martinez Art Studio, specifically the rental agreement and any outstanding debts." Mr. Peterson frowned. "That's private information." Alexander pulled out his checkbook. "I'm willing to make a generous donation to the town library fund." 10 minutes and $5,000 later, Alexander had the information he needed. Sophia owed 6 months of back rent, nearly $15,000. If she didn't pay by the end of the month, she'd lose the studio. But there was more. The landlord was a man named Marcus DeLuca, someone Alexander recognized immediately. Marcus was Sophia's ex-boyfriend from high school, the guy she dated before Alexander, the same guy who'd always been jealous of their relationship. And now he owned the building where Sophia's studio was located. This wasn't a coincidence. Alexander pulled out his phone and made a call. "Kane here. I need you to look into someone. Marcus DeLuca, Riverside Valley. I want to know everything, finances, business dealings, legal troubles, everything." His private investigator responded, "On it, boss. Give me 24 hours. Alexander hung up and headed toward DeLuca Properties, the real estate office on the edge of town. Marcus DeLuca was exactly how Alexander remembered him. Tall, muscular, with slicked back hair, and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Well, well," Marcus said, when Alexander walked in. "The prodigal son returns. Heard you were back in town." "Marcus, what brings you to my humble office? Looking to buy some property?" "I've got a great deal on a lakefront lot." "I'm here about Sophia Martinez." Marcus's smile faded slightly. "What about her?" "I heard she's behind on rent. That's between me and her. I want to pay her debt." Marcus leaned back in his chair, studying Alexander. "Why would you do that? That's my business." "Interesting." Marcus tapped his fingers on the desk. "You disappear for 8 years and suddenly you're playing knight in a shining armor? Are you going to accept my payment or not?" "Oh, I'll accept it," Marcus said slowly, "but it won't change anything." "What do you mean?" Marcus stood up and walked to the window. "Even if you pay her back rent, the lease is up for renewal next month, and I've decided not to renew it." Alexander's jaw clenched. "Why not?" "Because I have other plans for that property. A restaurant maybe, or a boutique hotel. Something that'll actually make money. You're doing this because of me." Marcus turned, his expression dark. You think you can just waltz back into town and pick up where you left off? Sophia spent years getting over you, years building a life without you. And I was there for her. Were you? Alexander challenged. More than you ever were. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut. Name your price, Alexander said. I'll buy the building from you. Marcus laughed. It's not for sale. Everything's for sale. Not to you. Marcus crossed his arms. See, I've been waiting 8 years for this moment. 8 years to watch you come crawling back. And now that you're here, I'm going to enjoy every second of watching you fail. Alexander took a step forward. This isn't about me. This is about Sophia and her business. Exactly. And she doesn't need you swooping in to save her. She needs to learn that some dreams aren't worth chasing. You're a bastard. Maybe, but at least I'm here. Where were you when she was pregnant and scared? Where were you when she was working 3 jobs to support her kid? Where were you when she cried herself to sleep every night? The words hit Alexander like bullets. Because Marcus was right. He hadn't been there. I'm here now, Alexander said quietly. Too little, too late. Marcus returned to his desk. Now get out of my office. Alexander left, his mind racing. He needed a plan, and fast. That evening, Alexander drove back to the art studio. The lights were off, but he could see movement inside. He knocked softly. Sophia opened the door, looking exhausted. What do you want, Alexander? I want to help. I told you. I know about the rent. I know about Marcus. Her face went pale. How did you? I did some digging. Let me pay your debt. No. Sophia, you're going to lose the studio. I said no. She stepped outside and closed the door behind her. I don't want your money. I don't want your pity. I don't want anything from you. This isn't pity. This is... What? Guilt? Because that's all it is, Alexander. You feel guilty for leaving, so now you're trying to buy your way back into my life. That's not true, isn't it? She crossed her arms. You think you can fix everything with money, but some things can't be fixed. Alexander took a deep breath. You're right. I can't fix the past, but I can help with the present. I don't need your help. Yes, you do. Marcus isn't going to renew your lease. Sophia's eyes widened. What? He told me himself. Even if you pay the back rent, he's kicking you out. She leaned against the wall, looking defeated. I knew it. I knew he was up to something. Let me handle him. No. Sophia shook her head. This is my fight. It doesn't have to be. She looked at him, tears glistening in her eyes. Why are you really here, Alexander? And don't tell me it's because of some anonymous letter. He met her gaze. Because I never stopped thinking about you. The confession hung between them. For 8 years, Alexander continued, I told myself I made the right choice, that success was worth the sacrifice. But every night I'd lie awake wondering what you were doing, if you were happy, if you ever thought about me. I tried not to, Sophia whispered. Did it work? She wiped her eyes. No. They stood there in silence, the weight of 8 years pressing down on them. I can't do this, Alexander, Sophia finally said. I can't let you back in. It hurt too much the first time. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm just asking you to let me help. Why? So you can feel better about yourself. No, so Daniel doesn't lose the studio you built for him. Sophia's breath caught. He talks about this place all the time, doesn't he? Alexander guessed. About how his mom is an artist? About how proud he is of you? Fresh tears rolled down Sophia's cheeks. Don't let Marcus take that away from both of you, Alexander said softly. Sophia was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded, just barely. Okay, but I'm paying you back. Every cent. Deal. She looked at him one more time before going back inside. And Alexander realized something. This wasn't just about money or guilt. This was about a second chance. Not just with Sophia, but with the son he never knew he had. And he wasn't going to waste it. The storm. Over the next few days, Alexander became a fixture in Riverside Valley. He rented a small apartment above the bookstore and set up a temporary office. His team in Chicago was furious. "Boss, we have 3 major deals closing this month," his COO complained over the phone. "You can't just disappear." "I'm not disappearing. I'm working remotely." "From a town with a population of 3,000 people?" "Yes." "Why?" Alexander looked out the window at the art studio across the street. "Because I have something more important to take care of." He hired a lawyer to deal with Marcus DeLuca, paid Sophia's back rent anonymously through a trust fund, started researching ways to help her business grow. But most importantly, he started watching. Every morning he'd see Daniel walk to school, backpack bouncing, smile bright. Every afternoon he'd see the boy help Sophia in the studio, carefully organizing brushes and paints. And every night Alexander would lie awake wondering what it would be like to be part of their lives. One rainy Thursday, Alexander was having coffee at Mrs. Chen's diner when he overheard a conversation. "Did you hear? The school's art program got defunded." "Again? That's the 3rd year in a row." "I know. My daughter's devastated. She loved those classes." An idea sparked in Alexander's mind. He pulled out his phone and made a call. "I want to make a donation to Riverside Valley Elementary School, specifically for their art program." "How much are we talking?" his accountant asked. "Enough to fund it for the next 10 years. Equipment, supplies, teacher salaries, everything." "Boss, that's going to be..." "I don't care about the cost. Just make it happen. Anonymously." Within a week, the school announced a mysterious benefactor had saved the art program. The town was buzzing with speculation, and Sophia was invited to teach weekly art classes to the elementary students. Alexander watched from across the street as she got the news, saw her face light up with joy. It was the first time he'd seen her truly smile since he'd returned. That evening, Sophia showed up at his apartment. "It was you, wasn't it?" she said when he opened the door. "I don't know what you're talking about." "The art program, the donation. It was you." Alexander said nothing. Sophia stepped inside, looking around the sparse apartment. "Why?" "Because those kids deserve a chance to learn, to create." "That's not the whole truth." He met her eyes. "Because I wanted to see you smile again." Sophia's expression softened. "Alexander, I know I can't erase the past," he said. "I know I can't give you back the years I stole. But maybe, just maybe, I can help build a better future." She sat down on the couch, looking conflicted. "Daniel asked about you," she said quietly. Alexander's heart skipped. "What did you tell him?" "I said you were an old friend, that you were in town for business." "Does he know about me being his father?" "No," Sophia shook her head. "I don't know how to tell him, or if I should." "He deserves to know." "Maybe, but I need to know you're staying first. I need to know you won't break his heart like you broke mine." The words stung, but Alexander understood. "I'm staying," he said firmly, "for as long as it takes." "Takes for what?" "To prove I've changed, to earn your trust back, to be the father Daniel deserves." Sophia looked at him for a long moment. "You hurt me, Alexander, more than you'll ever know." "I know. I had to do it all alone. The pregnancy, the birth, the sleepless nights, every milestone, every first word, every scraped knee. I was alone." "I'm sorry. Let me finish." Her voice was firm, but trembling. "I was terrified. I didn't know how to be a mother. I didn't know if I could do it by myself. But I did. Because I had to. Because I loved him more than anything in the world." Alexander felt tears burning in his eyes. "And then you show up," Sophia continued, 8 years later, wanting to be part of his life, wanting to be his father. "But where were you when I needed you?" "I didn't know." "Because you didn't care enough to find out," she shouted, tears streaming down her face. "You were so focused on your dreams, your success, your empire that you never looked back. Not once." "That's not true, isn't it? Tell me, Alexander, in 8 years, did you ever think about coming back? Did you ever wonder what happened to me?" He wanted to lie, wanted to say he'd thought about her every day. but the truth was more complicated. At first, yes, Alexander admitted. Every day. But then I convinced myself it was better this way. That you'd moved on. That you were happier without me. Happier? Sophia laughed bitterly. I cried for 6 months straight. I gained 50 pounds during pregnancy and couldn't afford maternity clothes. I worked at a diner until I was 8 months pregnant because I needed the money. And when Daniel was born, I held him in my arms and I wished so badly that you were there. Alexander couldn't hold back his tears anymore. I'm so sorry, Sophia. I'm so sorry. She wiped her eyes angrily. Sorry doesn't change anything. I know, but I'm here now, and I'm not leaving. You say that now? I mean it. They sat in heavy silence. Finally, Sophia spoke. There's something else you need to know. Alexander looked up. Daniel, he has questions about his father, about why he doesn't have a dad like the other kids. What do you tell him? I tell him that his father is a great man who had important things to do, that it wasn't Daniel's fault, that he's loved. Alexander's throat tightened. Can I meet him properly? Sophia hesitated. I don't know. Please. I won't tell him who I am. I just want to spend time with him. Get to know him. She studied his face, searching for sincerity. Okay, she finally said, but slowly, and if at any point I think it's hurting him, you back off. Understood? Understood. Tomorrow, come to the studio at 3 p.m. He'll be there after school. Alexander nodded, his heart racing. As Sophia left, she paused at the door. Don't make me regret this, Alexander. I won't, I promise. But as the door closed behind her, Alexander wondered if that was a promise he could actually keep. Father and son. The next day felt like the longest of Alexander's life. He changed his shirt 3 times, practiced what to say, tried to calm his racing heart. At 2:55 p.m., he stood outside the art studio, taking deep breaths. You can do this, he told himself. Just be natural. He pushed open the door. Daniel was there, sitting at a small table, drawing in a sketchbook. He looked up when Alexander entered. Hi, the boy said cheerfully. Are you Mom's friend? Alexander's throat went dry. Yeah, I'm Alex. I'm Daniel. The boy held out his hand, surprisingly formal for a 7-year-old. Alexander shook it, marveling at how small it was. Nice to meet you, Daniel. Are you here to paint? Mom teaches lessons sometimes. Actually, I was hoping you could teach me. Daniel's eyes lit up. Really? You want me to teach you? If that's okay. That's so cool. Nobody ever wants me to teach them. Daniel jumped up and grabbed some supplies. Okay, first we need to get the canvas ready. Come on. For the next hour, Alexander learned about art from his 7-year-old son. Daniel explained colors and brushstrokes with the seriousness of a professor. He showed Alexander how to mix paints and how to feel the art, instead of just painting it. You're not very good, Daniel observed, looking at Alexander's messy painting of a tree. Alexander laughed. I know, I'm terrible. It's okay. Everyone starts somewhere. Mom says art is about practice and passion. Your mom is very wise. She's the best. Daniel beamed. She can paint anything. Animals, people, buildings. She even painted my room with stars on the ceiling. That sounds beautiful. It is. Sometimes I pretend I'm sleeping in space. Daniel added more paint to his own canvas. Do you have kids? The question caught Alexander off guard. No, he said carefully. Not that I know of. Oh, that's sad. Kids are fun. I bet they are. Daniel tilted his head, studying Alexander. You look sad. I do? Yeah, Mom looks sad sometimes too, especially when she thinks I'm not looking. Alexander's chest tightened. Why do you think she's sad? Daniel shrugged. I don't know. Maybe because it's just us. Maybe she wishes there was someone else. Like a husband? Maybe. Or maybe she just misses my dad. Alexander nearly dropped his brush. Your dad? Yeah, I never met him. Mom says he had to leave before I was born. Important business stuff. Daniel went back to painting. I used to be mad about it. But now I think maybe he didn't know about me. Maybe if he knew, he would have stayed. Tears burned Alexander's eyes. I'm sure he would have. Do you think he ever thinks about me? Every single day, Alexander said without hesitation. Daniel looked up, surprised. How do you know? Because any father would be lucky to have a son like you. The boy's face broke into the biggest smile. Thanks, Mr. Alex. At that moment, Sophia came in from the back room. She saw them painting together and stopped. Mom, look, I'm teaching Mr. Alex how to paint. I can see that, Sophia said softly, her eyes locked on Alexander. He's not very good, but he's getting better. Alexander laughed. Thanks for the honest review. For the next few weeks, Alexander became a regular at the studio. Sometimes he'd help with inventory. Sometimes he'd watch Daniel after school while Sophia taught classes. Sometimes they'd all have dinner together. Awkward at first, then gradually more comfortable. Alexander learned everything about his son. Daniel loved dinosaurs and space. He was terrible at math but excellent at reading. He had a best friend named Jamie who lived down the street. He was scared of thunderstorms, but pretended not to be. And slowly, painfully, Alexander realized how much he'd missed. First steps, first words, first day of school, birthday parties, Christmas mornings, bedtime stories. 8 years of moments he could never get back. One evening after Daniel had gone to bed upstairs in Sophia's apartment above the studio, Alexander and Sophia sat in the studio surrounded by paintings. He's incredible, Alexander said. He is. Sophia smiled. He's my whole world. You've done an amazing job raising him. I didn't have a choice. Alexander looked down. I know, and I'm sorry. Stop apologizing, Sophia interrupted. I'm tired of hearing it. Then what do you want from me? She met his eyes. I want you to be honest about everything. I am being honest. Are you? Because I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, for you to get bored and leave again. That's not going to happen. How can you be sure? Because I love him, Alexander said fiercely. I know I haven't earned the right to say that. I know I've been absent his entire life, but I love him, Sophia. And I love... He stopped himself. You love what? She pressed. Alexander took a deep breath. I love you. I never stopped. Sophia's eyes filled with tears. Don't say that. It's true. You don't get to say that, not after everything. I know I hurt you. You destroyed me, Alexander, she shouted, then quickly lowered her voice, remembering Daniel was asleep upstairs. You broke my heart, and then I found out I was pregnant, and I had to piece myself back together for him, for Daniel, because I couldn't afford to fall apart. I wish I could change it, but you can't. No amount of money or grand gestures can give me back those years. I know. They sat in painful silence. Finally, Sophia spoke. Daniel asked me something yesterday. What? He asked if you could be his father. Alexander's breath caught. What? He said he knows you're not his real dad, but maybe you could pretend, just when we're all together. Tears streamed down Alexander's face. What did you tell him? I told him I'd think about it. Sophia wiped her own tears. But Alexander, if I let you into his life, really into his life, you can't leave, not ever. Because if you break his heart the way you broke mine, I'll never forgive you. I won't leave, I swear. Don't swear, she interrupted. Show me, prove it. How? Sophia stood up and walked to the door. Stay, not just for a few weeks. Stay permanently. Move here. Build a life here. Show me that Riverside Valley is enough for you. It is. Prove it. And with that, she went upstairs, leaving Alexander alone with his thoughts. The truth comes out. The next morning, Alexander made a phone call that would change everything. I'm resigning, he told his board of directors. You're what? His COO sputtered. Effective immediately. I'm stepping down as CEO. You can't be serious. I'm completely serious. I'll sell my shares and transition leadership over the next month. But I'm done. What about the Chicago expansion? The international deals? Promote Jennifer to CEO. She's more than capable. Alexander, If you do this, there's no coming back. I know. He hung up and felt free. For 8 years, he'd chased success, built an empire, made millions, and now he was walking away from all of it. For a woman who might never forgive him and a son who didn't even know he was his father. Some people would call it crazy. Alexander called it coming home. Over the next month, Alexander settled into life in Riverside Valley. He bought a small house on the edge of town. Nothing fancy, just a 2-bedroom cottage with a porch and a garden. He started renovating it himself, learning how to paint walls and fix plumbing from YouTube videos. The town watched with curiosity. Alexander Kane, the millionaire, doing his own home repairs? Guess money can't buy common sense. But Alexander didn't care about the gossip. He was focused on building something real. Every day he'd spend time with Daniel. They'd go to the park, feed the ducks, play soccer. And every day, Alexander fell more in love with the little boy who had his eyes and his stubbornness. One Saturday afternoon, Daniel asked if they could go fishing. Fishing, Alexander repeated, having never been fishing in his life. Yeah, Mom says my dad used to love fishing. Maybe you could teach me? Alexander's heart clenched. I'm not sure I'm the best teacher. Please. All the kids at school go fishing with their dads. I just want to try it once. How could Alexander say no to that? They borrowed poles from the local tackle shop and headed to the river. Alexander had no idea what he was doing, and it showed. Mr. Alex, you're supposed to put the worm on the hook first, Daniel pointed out. Right, of course. Alexander fumbled with the squirming worm. And you have to cast it into the water, not behind us. I knew that, Daniel giggled. You're really bad at this. I'm learning. They sat by the river for hours, not catching anything but talking about everything. School, friends, dreams, fears. Mr. Alex, Daniel said after a long silence. Yeah, buddy? Do you think my dad thinks about me? Alexander's throat tightened. I know he does. How can you be sure? Because I think about you all the time, and I'm just your friend. Imagine how much your dad must think about you. Daniel considered this. Do you have kids? The question came up again, more direct this time. Alexander took a deep breath. This was it, the moment he'd been dreading and hoping for. But before he could answer, Daniel's fishing rod suddenly jerked. I got something! I got something! The boy shouted. They spent the next 10 minutes trying to reel in the fish, which turned out to be an old boot. They both laughed until their sides hurt, and the moment passed. But Alexander knew he couldn't keep avoiding the truth forever. That evening, Alexander met with Sophia at the studio after Daniel had gone to bed. I want to tell him, Alexander said without preamble. Sophia looked up from the painting she was working on. Tell him what? The truth, that I'm his father. She set down her brush. Alexander, he deserves to know, and I deserve the chance to be his dad. Really be his dad. It's not that simple. Why not? Sophia stood up, wiping paint from her hands. Because once you tell him, there's no taking it back. He'll have expectations. He'll want you to be there for everything. Sports games, school events, birthdays. Can you promise me you can handle that? Yes. What about your business? I sold it, or most of it. I'm keeping a small consulting role, but I'm done with the corporate world. Sophia's eyes widened. You sold your company? It was just a company. Daniel is my son. She shook her head in disbelief. You're serious. Completely. Alexander, that company was your dream. No, he interrupted. It was my escape. I built it because I was running from this town, from my past, from myself. But my real dream? It's right here. Sophia's eyes glistened with tears. Don't say things you don't mean. I mean every word. Alexander stepped closer. I'm not the same person who left 8 years ago. That Alexander was scared and selfish. But this Alexander, the one standing in front of you, he knows what matters. And it's not money or success. It's family. We're not your family, Sophia whispered. You could be, if you let me prove it. She turned away, emotions warring on her face. I don't know if I can trust you again. Then let me earn it. Day by day, month by month, year by year, however long it takes. Sophia was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, there's something I need to tell you first. What? She took a deep breath. The letter? The one that brought you back here. What about it? It was me. Alexander froze. What? I sent it. Sophia finally faced him. I was desperate. The studio was failing. Daniel kept asking about his father, and I needed help. So I sent you that anonymous letter. Why didn't you just call me? Because I was scared you'd say no, or worse, that you'd say yes out of pity. She wiped her eyes. I thought if you came back and saw us, saw Daniel, maybe you'd want to stay for the right reasons. Alexander absorbed this. So this whole time, you wanted me here. I wanted Daniel to have a father. I wanted him to know you. Her voice broke. Even if I could never forgive you for leaving, I couldn't deprive him of knowing his dad. Alexander pulled her into a hug, and for the first time she didn't resist. They stood there holding each other, 8 years of pain and longing finally cracking open. I'm sorry, Alexander whispered, for everything. I know. I love you, Sophia. I never stopped. She pulled back, tears streaming down her face. Love isn't enough, Alexander. It wasn't enough 8 years ago, and it might not be enough now. Then what is enough? Time, consistency, being here when things get hard, not just when they're easy. I can do that. Can you? Can you really stay in a small town? Can you give up the excitement of the business world? Can you be happy with a simple life? Alexander looked around the studio, at the paintings, at the evidence of Sophia's hard work and passion, at the small table where Daniel did his homework. This isn't a simple life, he said. This is everything. Sophia searched his eyes, looking for doubt, for hesitation. She found none. Okay, she finally said. We'll tell him together, tomorrow. The confession. The next day was Sunday. Sophia suggested they take Daniel to his favorite place, the old treehouse in Memorial Park that had been there since they were kids. Why are we going to the treehouse? Daniel asked as they walked through the park. Because we need to talk to you about something important, Sophia said, her voice steady, but her hand trembling slightly. Daniel looked between them, worried. Am I in trouble? No, sweetheart, you're not in trouble. They climbed up to the treehouse, a wooden structure that had somehow survived decades of weather and countless children. The three of them sat in a circle. Daniel, Sophia began, do you remember when you asked me about your father? The boy nodded seriously. Well, there's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you a long time ago. Daniel's eyes widened. Did he die? No. Sophia took his hands. Your father is alive, and he's here. Here, in Riverside Valley? Sophia looked at Alexander, who nodded encouragingly. Daniel, she continued, Mr. Alex isn't just my friend. He's your father. The treehouse went completely silent. Daniel stared at Alexander, his young mind trying to process this information. You're my dad? Alexander's voice cracked. Yes. But you said you had to leave. Mom said you had important business. I did have to leave, Alexander explained carefully. But I didn't know about you. Your mom tried to tell me, but I was so focused on my work that I never got the message. And that's my fault. That's my biggest regret. Daniel looked at Sophia. Is this true, Mom? Yes, baby. It's true. The boy turned back to Alexander, his expression unreadable. So, all this time we were fishing and painting. You knew you were my dad? Not at first, but yes, I found out a few weeks ago. And you didn't tell me? I wanted to, so badly, but your mom and I agreed we needed to wait for the right moment. Daniel stood up looking upset. I asked you if you had kids. You said no. I know, and I'm sorry. You lied to me. Daniel's voice rose, tears forming. Everyone lies to me. Daniel! Sophia reached for him. But the boy pulled away and climbed down from the treehouse. running across the park. "Daniel!" Sophia called after him. Alexander and Sophia scrambled down and chased after him. They found him sitting under a big oak tree, crying. Sophia sat down next to him, pulling him close. "I'm sorry, baby. I'm so sorry. Why didn't you tell me before?" Daniel sobbed. "Why did everyone keep secrets?" "Because we were scared," Sophia admitted. "I was scared you'd be angry at me for not trying harder to find your dad. And your dad was scared you wouldn't want him in your life." Daniel looked at Alexander through teary eyes. "Why didn't you want me?" The words shattered Alexander's heart. He knelt down in front of his son. "I've wanted you from the moment I knew you existed. Daniel, I know I wasn't there when you were born. I wasn't there for your first words or your first steps. I wasn't there for any of it, and I hate myself for that. But I'm here now, and if you'll let me, I want to be your dad. Not just in name, but in every way that matters. What if you leave again?" "I won't." "How do I know?" Alexander pulled out a piece of paper from his pocket, a property deed. "Because I bought a house here, in Riverside Valley. It's small and needs a lot of work, but it's mine. It's ours if you want it to be." Daniel looked at the paper, then at Alexander. "You're really staying?" "I'm really staying. I sold my company in Chicago. I'm not leaving, Daniel. Not ever." The boy was quiet for a long moment. Then he asked, "Can I call you Dad?" Alexander's eyes filled with tears. "I would love that more than anything in the world." Daniel hesitated, then launched himself into Alexander's arms. And for the first time, Alexander held his son, really held him, and felt complete. Sophia watched them, tears streaming down her face, her heart breaking and healing at the same time. Over the next few weeks, they fell into a new routine. Alexander would pick up Daniel from school. They'd get ice cream from Mrs. Chen's diner, do homework together, play in the park. On weekends, Alexander would take Daniel to his new house and they'd work on renovations together. Daniel was surprisingly good at painting walls, definitely inherited from Sophia. "Dad, you missed a spot," Daniel would say, pointing. "Where?" "Right there. See? You're not very good at this." "I'm learning," Alexander would reply with a laugh. Slowly, they built not just a house, but a relationship. And Sophia watched from a distance, still guarded, still healing, but allowing herself to hope. One evening, after putting Daniel to bed, she and Alexander sat on the porch of his new house. "He's happy," Sophia said softly. "He is, thanks to you." "Thanks to us," she corrected. They sat in comfortable silence, listening to the crickets and the gentle breeze. "Sophia," Alexander said after a while, "I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know I don't deserve a second chance, but—" "Stop," she interrupted. He looked at her, worried. She smiled, a real, genuine smile. "You've proven yourself, Alexander. You didn't just say you'd changed. You showed it. You gave up everything to be here, to be Daniel's father. To be what?" She took his hand. "To be the man I always knew you could be." Alexander's heart raced. "Does this mean?" "It means I'm willing to try, slowly, one day at a time." "I can do slow." "Can you?" she teased. "The man who used to close deals in minutes?" "For you, I can be patient." Sophia leaned her head on his shoulder. "Good, because this time we're doing things right. No rushing, no shortcuts. Whatever you need." They sat there watching the stars come out, feeling like maybe, just maybe, they could build something beautiful from the ruins of their past. The threat returns. Everything seemed perfect for a few weeks.